I need to go to another Rise of the Phoenix concert. Eventually, I had played the entire album with no one showing up. What the hey? Dad's never late, especially not this late. I quickly dialed my dad's number again, but as soon as I pressed call, it disconnected and read a signal disconnection error message. What the... No signal error? How do I not have signal? I double-checked my phone and saw all 5 bars for signal. He must be in a dead zone. Before I could finish, a group of hands grabbed at my hands, feet, and covered my mouth. I screamed into the hand over my mouth, struggling to pull away from the hands grabbing at my limbs. It felt disgusting and scary, feeling their hands on me. I needed it to stop.
Hey! Don't dirty up Malix's prey!
The voice, which sent a fearful shiver down my spine, whispered into my ear.
You're coming with me, Miss Anderson.
I couldn't fathom what was happening, but before I knew it, I was blindfolded and my limbs were quickly tied up. I felt myself being carried somewhere and was shoved into something that echoed the interior of a bus or a van. The doors closed and off I was taken, unsure of where I was going and why. All I knew was that I was in trouble. All I saw was darkness. I felt numb as I was taken to a place I didn't know of. I couldn't even move my lips to scream. Sounds zipped past my ears. First of the interior of a car, then the outside, then an echoey space with whispers and cackles of people vibrating through it. However, the wrap around my eyes was eventually removed from my face and my bonds were cut. It took a while for my eyes to adjust, but I found myself in a warehouse surrounded by devils, including Malix, who was smirking at me.
Nicely done! I'm sure those little shits will come running to find you when they realize you didn't return to your precious little mansion. They'll search everywhere for you.
Malix walked over and set the barrel of his gun against the skin between my eyes.
It'll be so funny when they find your dead body instead.
Uzaris! All of a sudden, a bright purple light engulfed the room, causing the devils around me to cover themselves. Purple power!
What the?
Gusts of wind rushed past me, almost forcing me back. I covered my face with my arms, bracing myself and standing my ground. I tried to peek through my arms to see what was going on, but the light continued to shine brightly. As the gust slowly started to die, the light began to fade, revealing Erik. Erik.
Did you miss me?
Very much. However, the seductive smile that graced his lips quickly disappeared as he turned to Malix. As Malix lowered his arms, Erik glared.
You really are evil at its core. Kidnapping an innocent woman like you did. It's disgusting how we demons are confused for your kind.
Look at this little man-whore Erik right here, boys. Might as well sleep with a disease.
What does that even mean? The devils around them laughed, including Eris. I felt a twinge of anger, but Erik must have taken it from me and added it to his own. Erik flicked his wrist and arm across his body, producing a small whipping noise through the air. However, Malix hissed and reached for his cheek as if the air had slapped him hard. What the... When Malix removed his hand from his cheek, I stared wide-eyed at the large slash that was revealed on it. A mixture of red and black blood gently dripped from the wound, causing Malix to growl angrily at Erik.
So, pretty boy thinks he has balls, huh? Well, time to make this pretty boy a dead bitch.
Wow. All of a sudden, Malix lifted his gun towards Erik and pulled the trigger. I tensed up, not believing what I was seeing. As I braced myself for Malix's bullet to embed itself into Erik, however, a large ethereal tendril shot up in front of Erik's body, sprouting from the ground by his feet. Quickly after the bullet evaporated into the tendril, several others appeared, forming a dark purple crown around Erik's body.
What is that?
Did you expect me to come unprepared the second time around? Thanks to my lovely princess, I can now use the full extent of my powers. Unfortunately for you, that means I'm afraid you will lose this fight.
But what is this music, though, Erik?
You cocky little shit!
Malix charged up his energy and began to fire bullet after bullet at Erik in anger. However, the tendrils danced across Erik's body with ease, blocking each one as if they were mere pebbles to a wall. The remaining devils stare, trying to figure out what to do. Help Malix or watch in silence. Eris, however, walked up beside me and crossed her arms as she watched with an amused smirk on her face.
Die already!
Erik chuckled before snapping his fingers, causing a row of tendrils to appear behind him, pointing their sharp ends at Malix, who continued to fire bullets at the incubus. The tendrils uprooted themselves and floated into the air, straightening out to large spikes before quickly splintering into multiple thinner spikes. I could only stare, completely lost and intrigued at the sight as Erik whipped his hand across his body again. At Erik's command, the spikes flew at Malix, slashing and stabbing into his body. They were thin, barely making pencil-sized wounds, and only a few went into his body. The others scraped and scratched at his skin as they flew by. This didn't kill Malix, however. Malix growled loudly before charging at Erik, causing the incubus to step back in slight shock. Malix pointed his gun at Erik, closing the distance between them, and fired as the barrel almost reached Erik's face. Instead of the bullet ripping into Erik, a large explosion forced both away from each other. Malix bounced off the far wall and landed on his knees, groaning in pain. Erik, however, slid across the ground, landing on his stomach. Erik! Malix slowly planted a foot into the ground to stand, but froze before doing so, staring at Erik's body. Erik, on the other hand, slowly rose and turned to face Malix head-on. Erik reached a hand up and wiped off a small stain of blood that had painted the side of his lip, before growling almost animalistically. At that moment, something in the air changed. The air instantly went from frantic to still in energy. What could have been described in tone as the color red quickly turned into a deadly mix of purple and red as everything began to blend together all at once.
How persistent. I guess I'll have to go all out on you to finally rid the world of you.
Was this the extent of his true demon power? My eyes never strayed from Erik's face, however, even as it changed. His eyes began to glow a bright golden color as Erik began to walk towards Malix.
Let's end this.
Malix aimed his gun and fired at Erik, but the bullet never made its target. As the shot erupted from the barrel, the ethereal tendrils erupted from Erik's back, creating a wing-like barrier from the bullet. Malix stared wide-eyed as Erik's tendrils absorbed the bullet and grew almost larger in size and in number with each step Erik took. Erik's skin slowly began to morph and shift, changing from human to something else entirely. Something about Erik grew dark and menacing, and this transformation was making him even darker. It's like Tokyo Ghoul up in here. Before I was allowed to see Erik's new form, however, a pair of hands, darn it, quickly covered my eyes. Instinctively, I reached up and gripped them, trying to pull them off. A voice stopped me.
It's me. Don't look.
Who's gonna do this when Damien transforms? I listened carefully and let the last two words linger in my mind. Don't look. Why? What was being hidden from me? I wanted to know, but something told me to obey Damien's command. I could hear everything, however. I listened as Malix stood up with a pained grunt before being pushed against the wall with another shout. After that came sounds of flesh ripping and blood spurting, followed quickly by Malix's screams. Maybe it was better that I wasn't able to see.
Erik, enough!
Almost instantly after James's command, the sound stopped. The air grew silent as a pair of footsteps slowly made their way to where we were.
I just had to be sure he was dead. No use in letting him have a chance to revive.
You're getting sloppy, Erik. You've lost your glamour spell.
Glamour spell? What did he mean? Why did Erik sound so different? Why was this being hidden from me?
It's a spell that makes us look human.
I froze. Look human? They didn't look like humans after all? What did they look like?
Like demons.
But, as if Matthew knew what Damien was talking about, Matthew spoke up, followed by the sound of a cork popping out of a bottle.
Well, not for much longer. Here.
There we are. Thank you, Matthew.
I could hear the small clinking of glass being passed before hearing Erik guzzle down a liquid of some sort. The feel of the air around me gently began to warm back up, insinuating that everything had been returned to normal. Who cleaned up all the mess, though, is my question. Finally, Damien moved his hands from my eyes, allowing me to see around me once again. The devils, including Eris, had fled. On top of what I assumed to be Malix's body was dirty sheet that was quickly turning red from blood. I couldn't tell if it was even his body. It seemed lumped together like a pile of parts. Ooh. The boys, however, had gathered around me, all of them, including Erik, looking like nothing had happened. What just... I tried to speak, but everything zipped around in my head at the whole event, and I felt like speaking was impossible.
Let's just get you home, miss. There's nothing more to see here.
I could only nod. What had happened boggled my mind to the point of disbelief. I was second-guessing everything, lost in a sea of what, and how, and when. As we walked out of the warehouse, I looked to Erik for some form of sign that I wasn't dreaming. Erik smiled softly at me before looking ahead, trying to look like nothing had happened. It was over. Malix was gone, and the boys were finally safe. A wave of relief ran through my body at the thought of never having to deal with that group again. At the same time, a ping of realization hit the back of my mind. The boys were only going to stay until after Malix was defeated. That was our deal. As we approached home, I could feel something heavy weigh down my heart. It was late, but the boys led me inside and turned on the lights in the lobby.
Finally, we can relax.
It will be good to have some rest without devils breathing down our necks.
Ugh, I'm just tired. Can I hit the hay early?
I think some sleep would be good for all of us.
I looked to Damien, knowing he could read my mind, and frowned. I didn't want him to know about my thoughts on the situation. Yeah, bed sounds good. I wanted to just end tonight. Too much had happened, and I felt dizzy just trying to figure it out. However, Damien spoke up, stopping all of us from moving.
Should we be gone in the morning?
The air became still with tension. The realization of the situation hit the boys like a wave, forcing them to turn to me in curiosity. They had remembered their deal and were now awaiting me to decide their fate. I gulped, face to face with the reality of the situation. The boys were leaving it up to me. They looked like they were willing to accept whatever I had demanded. It was only fair, though, after all that had happened. I looked to Erik, feeling my heart flutter in my chest. I didn't want him to leave, but would he ask to stay? I hoped that he would say no and ask me to stay longer. As if he knew what I wanted, Erik moved and stepped to me, gently moving a strand of hair from my face to behind my ear. He stared into my eyes and spoke, gently stroking my cheek.
Princess, you've been such a wonderful help to us already. But I'm afraid that I must ask more of you. I've grown fond of being here and of serving you. Would you allow us to stay?
My heart skipped while a large red blush ran across my cheeks. The boy stared at Erik, wide-eyed, but didn't dare to speak out. Erik stepped back to give me space, returning to where he was. I moved my gaze across each boy, trying to make a decision. If they left in the morning, I would never see them again, and my life could return to normal. If I did decide to let them go, that would have been for the best. No goodbyes, no delays. But did I want to? They had done so much for me in such a small amount of time. Let them stay. I wanted them to stay. I wanted him to stay. I merely smiled, staring at the man I had come to have feelings for before speaking at last. I would love it if you all could stay. The boys cheered tiredly, but nonetheless enthusiastically. It was cute to see everyone so excited, despite the tiredness that ran equally through our bodies. Today was a rough day. My home is your home, as long as you can still help with chores. The boys nodded in unison, agreeing to the terms I had set for them. Despite the good situation, I felt myself slowly slipping into unconsciousness. However, James quickly clapped his hands together, getting everyone's attention and waking me up, making sure I didn't pass out on the floor.
All right, everyone. We're all very tired, so let's head to bed, shall we?
Oh! Yeah, sleep is actually a thing. Right.
We've had a very long day, but it will be good to just relax tonight and tomorrow.
Sleep sounds really good right now.
Yeah, man.
I watched a very happy smile grow onto Erik's lips. He shared my excitement, knowing that we would be together longer. Who knew how long we would stay together? All I cared about was that I would be with him. The others quickly left to finally rest, leaving me and Erik alone at last. My heart fluttered a bit as Erik walked closer to me, gently wrapping his arms around my waist. I placed my hands onto his shoulders, leaning close.
Yet again, you spoil me. I'm very unworthy of you, Princess.
Hush, Erik. I wanted you to stay. I stared up into his eyes, getting lost in them. I didn't know if it was the tiredness or my growing attachment to him, but I felt myself lean into Erik's body. It invited me to stay a while, making me forget that my bed was also calling for me.
Listen, About what happened at the warehouse.
No, it's fine. You did what you had to do. I understand. I had accepted everything while in Erik's warmth. He was real, and he was someone I didn't want to be without, even if that meant nodding against my curiosity. Besides, I was too tired to explore that memory further. Erik nodded before kissing my forehead sweetly.
Come, let's get you to bed.
I nodded before Erik gently lifted me up into his arms like a bride and carried me to my room. I didn't want to leave his arms, leaning my head against Erik's chest, but eventually I was slowly lowered to my bed and covered with my bed covers. I was still in my school clothes, but I was too tired to strip or care. I looked at Erik, fighting a yawn from escaping me as he gently ran a hand over my hair.
Have a good night, princess. I'll prepare breakfast for you in the morning.
I nodded with a tired smile before watching him slowly stand and leave my room, closing the door. A wave of happiness washed over me as I laid in bed. I made a good choice. Sure, it would be hard, but I could tell that I would be able to manage it. Help around the house and being with a man whom I was slowly starting to fall for would be worth it. I slowly felt my exhaustion take over. I let sleep consume me as I drifted into the darkness in my mind. Everything was peaceful. I was happy. It's the end of the game! Right? Or is it just the intermission? There we go. A new challenger!
You are an interesting creature.
I'm curious now how things are going to go with Diana this time around. We're with a different guy. We saw her behind Lisette, of all people. Now, this is still a very unflattering angle for you, because you're gorgeous, lady. I opened my eyes to see a woman staring down at me with a very sly smirk on her face. I opened my mouth to scream in fright, but a hand quickly covered my mouth.
No screaming now. Too early, silly girl.
I could only stare up at the woman above me. I still felt weak, not having the strength to move and fight her off. What was going on, and why was she here?
Why do the boys like you? You're unique, yes, but that can't be all that you have going for you.
Rage began to consume my core again. This woman, whoever she was making me mad. She must have known, and she let another smirk grow onto her face.
Ooh, you're feisty. That could be why.
Before I could bite her hand in anger, she removed her hand from my lips, standing up and staring down at me from her place next to my bed. Much better angle for you, dear. I quickly sat up and glared daggers at the intruder. She was very beautiful, but I felt more anger than amazement. Who the hell are you, and why are you in my room? The woman began to laugh, making the rage inside me increase. I wanted to punch her, but I waited for her answer.
How silly of me. I forgot that we demons are not well known of in your world. You can call me Diana, little human.
Diana? Demon? You're a demon?
I am, but I'm much more than just an average demon.
What do you mean?
Silly girl. I'm a succubus.
I stared at Diana in shock. A succubus? First incubi, now a succubus. Great. I had now met both genders of sex demons. Diana crossed her arms under her bosom and looked at my body.
Well, you are pretty, but you seem very reckless. Too reckless.
I moved out and stood from the bed, still glaring at Diana. Why are you here?
Oh, I just wanted to see who my competition was.
Competition?
For the boys, of course. They don't belong here, and yet here they remain. I want to know why, and remedy this little issue.
This girl was seriously pissing me off. Issue? What issue? They want to stay here, so they can.
Silly, uneducated human. You don't understand the important roles these boys play in the abyssal planes. You keeping them here is practically imprisonment.
You have about 10 seconds to leave.
Is that a threat? How cute. What are you going to do? Kill me?
And if I do?
You barely have the strength to stand, little human. I can rip the rest of your energy out and knock you into a coma. You'll never be able to wake up again.
Touch me and I'll...
Enjoy every minute of it.
I felt my body freeze and heat up to almost a painful haze. My mind began to feel fuzzy as Diana stepped to me and caressed my cheek.
Now, you're going to listen to everything I say without any questions. Got it?
I nodded.
Good. I plan to bring the boys back to the Abyssal Plains. Why? So that I can take my place as queen of their realm. They have no reason to be here in this silly little world, so I'm going to make sure they return home. Okay, Pumpkin?
I nodded, but growled. My rage couldn't be concealed, despite the hold I was under. You evil bitch.
Call me evil all you want, dearie. I'm not evil. You're just in my way.
I felt Diana lean into my ear and whisper, making me unconsciously shiver in both pleasure and annoyance.
Now, be a good little human and go to bed. I'll make sure they're gone before you get home tomorrow from school, so make sure to say goodbye in the morning.
I felt my body move on its own to lay in bed and cover itself with my bedsheets. I glared at Diana the entire way down. Diana laughed at my futility. I'll get you.
Oh, please do.
All of a sudden, her voice deepened and became cold and demonic, sending a violent, scared shiver down my spine. Her red eyes practically illuminated in the darkness of my room as she glared at me.
Give me a reason to make your life a living hell.
I gritted my teeth, trying to fight back against the hold on me. She couldn't have been that tough. She needed energy to survive, right? I was sure she couldn't have had enough to hold me down forever. Diana then laughed and returned to normal.
Oh, and make sure you don't tell the boys I was here. I want my visit to be a surprise.
I felt the hold on me disappear, allowing me to sit up and practically growl at Diana in rage. What's stopping me?
And you must not care about your friends and family as much as you care for the boys.
I stopped and stared. What did she mean by that? Was that a threat to my family? Diana smirked at me, knowing the confusion behind my eyes.
Let's just say that if you tell the boys about me, I'll make sure that no one will care for you, and you'll be all alone in this little house until the day you die.
I could feel fear creeping into me. Alone? How could she do that? The word demon reverberated in my head, reminding me that I was facing off against something supernatural. A human with a shield versus a devil was one thing. A human on her own versus a demon was another.
Have a good night.
And with that, Diana sank into the floor through a magic purple pentagram, which disappeared as her head vanished into the floor. I couldn't believe it. I had one problem and now I had another. Instead of a crazy psycho devil who wanted to kill me and the boys, I had a succubus wanting to ruin my life and take the boys away. Could my life get any worse? No. I wasn't going to let her win. She's not as powerful as she looks. I know it. I had to mentally confirm it. She wasn't going to win. The boys wanted to stay with me. I let out a sigh before closing my eyes, affirming my plan of action. No matter what she was going to do, I was going to beat her. Eventually, the morning arrived and the sun screamed at me to get up. Surprisingly, I woke up before my alarm once again, which was nice. I stretched out and quickly got dressed, getting ready for school. She expects me to say goodbye to the boys. I will say good morning, and will see them when I come back. No way am I going to say goodbye. I scooped up my bag and headed downstairs to the dining room, seeing the boys already eating a delicious selection of food. The smell made my stomach growl wildly as the sight of food drew me to walk further into the room.
Good morning, miss. Did you sleep well?
Before I could lie, hiding the incident in the back of my mind, Damien furrowed his eyebrows and stopped eating.
She's here.
The boys looked at Damien in confusion while I cursed his ability silently in my mouth.
Damien, what's up with you? Of course she's here. She kinda owns the house.
Damien looked to me, wanting me to explain for him. However, the threats that Diana gave me last night warned me to keep my mouth shut. I won't say it this time, but next time I will. I shook my head at Damien, not wanting to talk about it. Damien sighed and looked at James. James tilted his head and furrowed his brows at Damien before looking to me.
Does anyone else live in this house?
No, just us.
Then who is Diana?
My heart stopped. Damien was still able to read my mind. I couldn't help but glare at him, but he continued to press a hard tell-the-truth gaze at me. Damien was going to press the issue, so I had no choice but to speak. A girl named Diana came by last night.
Diana? Is she important?
Did she try to hurt you?
Well, she's a succubus. That single word made the boys stop and stare at me. I looked to each boy, unsure of what was going through their minds. Should I have avoided it?
So, she's come to try and bring us back.
She must really be desperate.
Well, what should we do now?
Nothing. She'll give up eventually.
Will she?
The boys continued to look at me as if I knew the answer to that question. Damn it, Damien. She said that if I told you, she'd make my life a living hell. She can't possibly do that, right? She's not a devil.
No, she isn't. However, she is a very powerful demon.
She's a master of mind manipulation and has been trained in illusion. Unlike other demons who use strength to get power, she uses her charisma.
She has the power to make armies bow to her and obey her every whim. That's why she's so obsessed with us.
What? What do you mean?
Well, she sorta has family ties to us. She was promised to marry one of us in exchange for more power.
She's just some whacked up hussy who doesn't know how to close her legs. She's not a real threat.
Oh, really? I feel insulted.
The boys and I looked around the room, wondering where the voice came from. I felt cold sweat run down the back of my neck in fear, remembering what kind of power she had. At last, we saw Diana by the entrance of the kitchen, juggling a single red apple in her hand as she leaned against the archway. The boys quickly surrounded me, glaring at the intruder.
So, you took up a human name as well.
Beautiful name, isn't it? Well, for a human name, anyway.
What the hell do you want?
To bring you back, of course. However, you weren't supposed to know that I was coming. I completely forgot about that little mind-reading ability. My mistake.
Diana pushed off from the archway and walked towards us, making the boys step closer to me in a protective circle. Diana laughed.
My. What has the world come to? A group of demons protecting a human girl? I'll tell you right now, she's not that pretty. And from what I can tell, she's still a virgin.
My face grew red in complete anger and embarrassment. How dare she? Diana chuckled and smirked at me, knowing that I wanted to hit her, but I had control of myself.
Such control you have, human. You know your place very well.
I didn't control the growl that escaped my throat, however.
Well, will you all change your minds? I assure you, it's for the greater good.
I expected the boys to say no. What I heard was complete silence. None of the boys replied to Diana, which made me both nervous and fearful as to why. Diana leaned her head back a bit, surprised for a different reason.
No. Well, I see.
Was silence truly them saying no to her? I looked around at the boys and saw the disobedience in their eyes, giving me my answer. I felt my heart flutter, especially when my eyes landed on Erik. He kept close to me, glaring daggers into Diana. I could feel that he was completely adamant in his choice to stay. I don't know what, but I was incredibly happy to know he wanted to stay. Diana sighed and pressed a finger into her temple, rubbing it gently.
Either all of you are playing a very convincing hard-to-get game, or you all must be out of your minds.
Okay, sorry. I thought I maybe double-clicked. Diana then looked to me, locking her gaze with mine as if to read me. I could tell she wanted me to do something, but the boys would stop her, so the stare was her only available action. After a small moment of silence, Diana licked her lips before breaking the gaze battle and smiling to the boys around me.
Very well. I guess I'll take my leave now.
What? Her leave? Was she serious? The boys around me straightened up and grew confused looks on their faces as Diana stepped back and away from us with a small bow, flaunting her cleavage. Without another word, a deep purple pentagram appeared under her feet, and Diana's body slowly sank into the floor. As her head vanished into the floor, the pentagram vanished. At once, the boys relaxed and slowly began to return to their spots at the table, each in deep thought.
She'll be back, but she won't kill us. She needs us alive.
Whatever. We'll just keep saying no. She can't force us to come back.
She can't do anything but annoy us. Eventually, she'll give up.
That's the hope, anyway.
Hopefully. Erik walked over to me and gently caressed my cheek, looking at me with concern.
She won't harm you, Princess. I promise.
I nodded, feeling that he was telling the truth, or at least a hopeful and comforting thought. Erik gently took my hand in his and kissed my knuckles, however, making me blush and forget what I was thinking about. The sound of collective chuckles and playful snickers whispered through the air, making me blush even more, but as Erik cleared his throat, the laughter stopped. Whoops. Okay, I clicked through a lot. I looked up to see he was glaring at his brothers with his lips on my hand. He and I pulled away from each other just as the sound of Naomi's car appeared. I quickly ate my food, waved to the boys, and left, confident that nothing was going to happen. Never ever say that nothing will happen before the day is over.